In this video, we will go over techniques and tips on how to measure a hyperextended thumb for an MCP splint. This splint should be used on thumbs that hyperextend at the MCP, have at least 25 degrees of MCP flexion, and can actively abduct at the CMC joint. Additional support is frequently added with a proximal volar extension if there is more than 20 degrees of hyperextension at the MCP joint. Before you start measuring, it is important to talk to the person to find out if their fingers are feeling normal or swollen. If the fingers are swollen, it will affect measuring and final fit of the splint. Understanding if they have fluctuations in size can help when deciding between a larger or smaller easy sizer. To measure for the MCP splint, we will be using the Easy Sizer tool. The Easy Sizer tool has rings that have been designed to match the exact size and shape of our splints. Numbers referencing the sizes are located on the tabs, and alternating ring colors indicate whole and half sizes. The Swannock holder can be used for visualization purposes, and we will show you that later in the video. For the MCP splint, we will usually take 3 measurements. We will measure both the length and width for the proximal ring and take a distal ring measurement. Before we use the Easy Sizer, we will need to make 3 marks on the hand to help us locate where the rings will rest. Mark where the MCP joint is, then mark where the CMC joint is, and using those 2 reference points, mark halfway between them. This halfway point is the minimum length the proximal ring should be to effectively stop the hyperextension. Now let's get started with the tool. Using the larger set of Easy Sizers, find a ring that rests in the MCP volar crease and can be angled back just past the halfway mark between the MP and the CMC joints. Do not press the Easy Sizer into the web space since the ring must reach the mark when the hand is at rest. Once you find a size that looks good, make a note of it on the order form. Next, evaluate if the size you chose for the length is also a good fit for the width. Move the Easy Sizer side to side to see if you have gapping between the tool and the hand. If you see a lot of space, take a second measurement to choose a smaller size that fits better side to side. The ring should be angled, but it does not have to touch the middle mark on the hand. We are just looking for a ring that touches side to side on the thumb, proximal to the MCP joint. Once you have chosen a width measurement, whether it be the same as the proximal length or a smaller ring, detach it from the cord to use later for visualization. Now find a distal ring size. Using the smaller set of Easy Sizers, find the smallest ring that will slide over the IP joint when rotated to a horizontal position. Check to make sure that the ring can be rotated back to vertical and then slid back to reach the MCP volar crease. Once you decide on a size, detach it from the cord. We can now use the Swannock holder to get an idea of how the splint will look on the thumb. Put the Easy Sizer chosen for the proximal ring width and the distal ring onto the finger so they face away from each other. Then slide the tabs into the Swannock holder. When the trial splint is held together by the Swannock holder, you will probably not be able to get it on or off the finger, but don't worry, that does not mean it does not fit. Once it is made in silver, it will slide more easily on the thumb. You may have to twist the final splint into place so that you can get the distal ring over the IP joint. It is important to have the distal ring as snug as possible so that it fit well in the space between the 2 joints, and so that it is small enough not to ride out on the IP joint, which can cause discomfort. Change any sizes if you feel they do not fit well. Once you decide on all 3 sizes, record them on the order form. The thumb splint has some other options that are important to consider. A bracelet usually needs to be ordered to help the splint stay in place. This bracelet will generally start off too long, and when fitting the splint you can decide how many loops you want removed. To adjust the bracelet, it can be returned to us and we will adjust it free of charge, or you may have it shortened by a local jeweler. The bracelet comes with a lobster claw clasp which is more secure, but may be difficult for people without fine motor skills. We can substitute an S-hook upon request. Also, a proximal volar extension or PVX can be added to help support under the head of the metacarpal. For people that sublux, it is important to stabilize under the MCP joint since the web space stops the splint from going back far enough to support under the joint. Remember to record these additions on the order form if needed. For gamekeeper's thumb, the thumb is generally unstable. A combination of a lateral support with a proximal radial extension can be added. If the thumb is adducted due to significant osteoarthritis, or if the MCP joint has limited flexion, consider using the stable thumb splint with a proximal volar extension. Note that unstable or deviated MCP joints can only be corrected if the two rings fit well side to side. This will be a problem if the IP joint is very enlarged. That is how you measure for an MCP splint worn for hyperextension. If you need any help or have any questions, please visit our website at www.silverringsplint.com or feel free to call us toll-free at 1-800-311-7028. Thank you for watching this video, and we hope it has been informative.